Before I begin, I would like to start out by stating that Masad Ayub is one of the heroes of the armament movement. If you haven't read all his work, you should probably go do that right now. He's very good. He's rigorous. He's sound. I think he has a good handle on the matter of armament, and I recommend his work to anybody, regardless of what you think about the armament movement or what you think about guns and that sort of thing. But for work, I am a programmer. For many years, I worked in the language Python, and you know, I still work with some people who are Python programmers. If you want to have a fun argument, find a Python programmer and tell them that Python is actually a scripting language instead. That's a good conversation to have. But and because of this, it was inevitable that I would hear about Pycon and the little adventure they had there. For the last 12 years, I have considered myself to be a feminist. I believe that I am a tolerant person. I have friends all over the religious map, and I have family members of a wide variety of ethnicities, and I love them all equally. I do not believe that I fit the mold of your average run-of-the-mill bigot, and I really have no affinity for the conservative talk about political correctness. We are prisoners to these inane social stigmas. It's ridiculous. I calls them like I sees them. If you think that's politically incorrect, well, I don't. Take a hike. That sort of talk has always bothered me. I hate it when I get it in chain letters from conservative friends and relatives or whatever, but at the same time, the whole situation gets pretty demoralizing. So a so-called tech evangelist by the name of Adria Richards overheard a conversation that was juvenile and meaningless and tasteless, and she chose to be offended by it. And you know what? That's great. That's fine by me. I believe that everyone has a right to be offended. If a person is talking and you want to be offended, by golly, you should be. I'm down with that. Be offended. Congratulations, Miss Richards. You got offended. So, I mean, what do you do when you're offended? We can do like grown-ups do when we're offended. And we can say, hey, I don't think that that's appropriate. Or we can do like elementary school students do and start taunting and chiding and trying to embarrass people. You know, humans are gregarious animals, and so you can exploit that sometimes. And you know what? I don't even begrudge Miss Richards of, you know, the public shaming thing. Even though Pycon says they don't think it's appropriate, and that's fine. It's their convention. They can make whatever rules they want. But I mean, I think that public shaming and ostracizing is actually a useful tool, and that it can be a way that you can try and convince people. It's certainly morally superior to using threats of force, other such forms of coercion to try and get people to agree with you. Yeah, appeal to their gregarious mammal instincts. Okay, fine, sure, great. But I would argue that just as Masad Ayub encourages us to be judicious in our use of deadly force, I would encourage everyone to be judicious in their use of social force. So, Adria Richards takes a private situation, and she turns it into a public one by the ever sophisticated and refined mechanism of Twitter, word of this gets around, and the company Playhaven, I believe is its name, they get wind of this, and they decide to fire the particular employee who had had this conversation that offended her. Because apparently it's disrespectful to women to have a conversation between two men about their own genitals. Whatever. If I were to sink to Adria's level, I would just assume that maybe those two guys were like boyfriends and that she's just a homophobe. And I don't begrudge Playhaven of their right to fire people. If they had paid for him to attend the con, then, you know, he's supposed to represent the company's interests, and if he failed to do that, although I think firing him is extreme, whatever, that's their call. But the situation, it's daunting at this point. It's tiring. I would like to think that we could all be mature adults, that we could avoid offending people. We could avoid things that we know are supposed to be offensive. That if we are offended, we could just concisely communicate that and call it over with. But it's getting out of control now. If you're at Disneyland and the person wearing the Mickey Mouse costume fails to hug your child, and your child is black, well then the only explanation is racism. If two guys are being immature, it's only because they have no sensitivity for the interests or well-being of women now. We're getting into a boy who cried wolf situation, where we will be incapable of recognizing a true bigot because we are so careless in flinging the accusations of bigotry around. It's okay. You can calm down. People can say things that are offensive to you, and you don't have to turn it into a massive conflict. You certainly don't need to turn it into litigation, lobbying Congress over the matter. And it's the sort of thing that makes me wonder if maybe the disarmers have a point. If our society cannot be judicious in the way we use social force, why should we be judicious in the way... why would we be judicious in the way that we use lethal force? It's kind of scary to think that maybe, just maybe, we're that juvenile of a society.